In a world where zombies, ghosts, serial killers, and vampires all exist, it's Nico, Brian, Mike, and Dustin, and they are all that stand between you and the films that could end the world. Welcome to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Review Podcast. Just want to thank all our fans and listeners. I really appreciate all support. All of y'all are awesome. Before we get into the film review, I just want to give a quick shout out to our website, don'tgoouthere.com. Everything about our podcast is on our website. We got all of our episodes and interviews. Like we've said in the past, we've done over 200 plus episodes, but we've also got some really good interviews. And if you ever want to check those out, definitely go to our website. It's a lot easier to find them. We have a little section just for interviews. We got all of our our store. We got some new merch up, some new t-shirts. They're awesome. And we also have Shan's Etsy page attached. Her tumblers have been selling like hotcakes. It's super hot outside. Definitely want to keep them drinks cold. Check out our Etsy page. And last thing I want to shout out on our website is our social media links. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. We love interacting with our fans. We love staying connected with all of you. We read all of your comments and questions on the air. So definitely follow us on social media as well. And last thing I want to shout out is our Patreon that we call Blood Donors. We have two different kinds. We have the traditional monthly reoccurring kind. We fully acknowledge that times are very tough right now, economically, just everything in general. But we really appreciate any financial contributions we get. It really takes a big burden off of us, and all that money goes directly back into the podcast, never to in our pockets. And we also have a one-time donation. Let's say you're a big fan of a movie, you want us to review it. We have that legendary blood donor tier. You pick the movie, we have you come on. We've kind of modified things just for editing purposes, scheduling purposes, where we either live call you in or pre-record it. You give your general thoughts, you give your rating, why you pick this movie. It's not like we've had any problems in the past, but it's not like we don't want fans on, but it's just caused some editing issues and scheduling conflicts, and we don't want to keep all of y'all waiting for months and months and months if you pay for a blood donor review. Also want to just address some other quick news real quick before we get into the film review. We've noticed on Spotify our most recent episode, Wolf Creek, is I think 14 to 15 minutes shorter than other streaming platforms. Not sure what happened there, but we assure you, Spotify listeners, that we did not just end right in the middle of our fun fact segment or whenever it was. Go to our YouTube, go to SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, wherever. Check out the ending. We truly apologize for that. We don't know what the issue is with that. But while you're over on Spotify, leave us a rating on there as well. It's come to my attention that Spotify is now the biggest place to listen to podcasts. I was not aware of that. But give us a rating on Spotify as well. All right. Business is out of the way. Let's jump into the film review. We're kicking off a new theme month. This is my theme month. I chose Remake or Reboot month. But after seeing all of our picks, it might as well just be another 2000s month. Shout out to Mike. But, the 2000s is famous for a lot of these, reboots and remakes. Brother Brian is up first. What is your pick?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a fun theme month. I actually picked 2005's Amityville Horror remake, and I'm of the opinion that this is a really forgotten remake. A hidden gem, as they say. But yeah, I really enjoy it. It's not a perfect movie or anything. Platinum Dunes, rest in peace, was killing it in the early 2000s. Very few misses, in my opinion, and I think that this is one of the ones that they got right. Now, we reviewed the original way back on like episode 8 or so. I ranked it a 6 back then. But to be fair, that was before I knew what I was doing. So if I could re rank that, I would give it like a 3.5, I believe now. To be fair, I did see this one first before I saw the original. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there. Also, worth mentioning that I don't like any of the Amityville movies except this one. I think that this one not only surpasses the original one, but it's not even really close for me. The cast is phenomenal. I love Ryan Reynolds and pretty much everything I've seen him in. This is no exception. And it's also it's awesome to see him in a different role, that we're not used to seeing him in. So yeah, you could classify this as a guilty pleasure of mine, I guess. Melissa George is a two-time DGOT veteran, 30 Days of Night, which I also picked. Hit girl herself, Chloe Grace Moretz, in her first role. again, I think the cast is great. I know the phrase "don't fuck the original" gets thrown around a lot nowadays, but and as I'll say, the majority of the picks this month, less one, fuck the original. This one's better.
All right, Brian, I'll go next. Tonight is a glorious night. Me and Brian are back on the same team, my man. I agree
Man,
with
it's
you pretty
been
much
so
with everything
long.
you said. I'm a fan of this movie too. You know, it came out when just got into high school. I liked it then. I still like it now. I agree basically with everything you said. Love the cast. Love Ryan Reynolds in this kind of new role. I think he was great. Honestly, slipping into madness. Uh, yeah. And after seeing the original movie back in episode whatever it was, made me appreciate this one a lot more because no disrespect, but I am not a fan of the original Amityville Horror. I gave that one a 4, and that was before I knew what I was doing, so I'd probably cut that score in half, honestly, at this point. But I also agree with Brian. I don't think this movie's perfect. There's some scenes that I wrote it in my rating at the end, but it definitely feels 2000s remakey. I'm still not a fan of the fly scene. You can just cut that, honestly, and leave it out. But Brian, I'm back. I'm back on the team. I like this movie, and I have no shame. Brother Mike, go ahead.
Wasn't it bees or was it flies?
No, it's flies.
It's flies.
Bees in the original.
Yeah.
Yeah. Piece
No,
of
they
shit.
were flies too, I think.
I don't fucking know, man.
Honestly, I hate the original so much I forget what the hell that movie even has in it. Okay.
Jesus, Wicker
First
Man.
of all, yeah. First of all, I'm glad to be back. Thanks for having me back, fellas, after missing Wolf Creek last week, which I apologize for. But, moving and wedding and all this other stuff. But anyway, no excuses. I'm back. Here I am. It's funny you said that, Nico, at the beginning about how Remake Month is basically just a sequel to the to the 2000s month, because it's very true. And like Brian said, outside of the one that I picked, all of them are better than the original. I agree with you on that. But I'm not as big a fan as you two are of this movie. I don't think it's bad. I just think it's kind of there. And now it's significantly more watchable than the original, significantly more entertaining than the original. I think the cast is pretty damn good, as you guys mentioned. This movie is definitely a Platinum Dunes movie. There's no doubt about it. The minute you turn it on and press play, you know exactly the film studio that this movie came from, which is funny because when we get to my pick, I picked their one stinker during that era. There's no doubt about that. But anyway, so I like Ryan Reynolds in this role. I think he's not a favorite of mine, and I don't know if that's a hot take. Maybe just because I'm just not a fan of the movies he's in, not necessarily his acting, but he's not like a favorite guy that I go to.
Come on, man. Just Friends is incredible. Come on.
I didn't say I didn't like anything he was in. I just said I don't like that much stuff that he's in. I think he's pretty good here. So my only problem with this movie is that it's almost, there's certain spots where it reminds me of the original, and I wish it had just kind of gone a different direction. We talked about the Friday the 13th remake reboot way back when, and how it kind of encapsulated the original spirit, but gave me a completely different story. And this has a few new elements, obviously, with a bigger budget and better production and better, effects and all that stuff. But to me, the bones is kind of the same story. And I just get a little bored with house is haunted, there's possession, dad loses his mind, descent into madness, tries to kill the family. But the ending is, a nice warm way to end it. But for me, it just is kind of okay. Now, I've been kind of messing with Brian that I was going to rate this really low. I'm not going to rate it as low as he thinks, but I probably won't rate it as high as he wants me to. But to me, all I can really say about the movie as far as like a summation is that it's fine. It's not bad. We've seen some bad remakes. We kind of got lucky this month and none of it. Well, I picked a bad remake in my opinion, but outside of that, we picked some really good remakes, but there are some really bad stuff out there when it comes to remaking a movie. And this movie doesn't do anything offensive. And I'm with you, Brian. I cannot stand any other Amityville Horror movie that I've seen except for this one. This is the one I can turn on and be okay. So I'm glad we're getting to review it though, because I had to get the taste out of my mouth of the original, because I never have to watch that movie again. And by the way, we're offending people when we say that because I know there are just massive fans of that film, and more power to you, but I'm not one of them.
There shouldn't be. I want to start by giving a special shout out tonight to our newest listener all the way up in Pennsylvania. Hello, Miss Katie. I hope you're having a good night. Stay off the Red Bull and the coffee and all that. And don't worry about it, guys. But this movie, yeah, man, it's very anticlimactic. I don't really
That's
care
a good
for
word.
it. Like I wanted more. You go into the opening scene and you see, oh shit, he's Chris Benoit and this whole family, which we'll get to that. But then we go to the rest of the movie and it's like nothing really happens. Like he's an asshole. Yeah, he's an asshole. But guys, please, I'm trying to talk here.
It's like Chris Benoit.
You can't just Chris Benoit as a verb. You can't just say
Well, he did. He did.
I'm aware. Actually, he used a gun. I mean, Benoit was using the crippler crossface and shit. But anyway,
Well,
Let's
yeah.
not.
That's semantics at that point. But
goddamn, pal.
But no, I mean, it's just like I was expecting so much more because, well, first of all, the runtime is very encouraging. So I was like, hell yeah, 90 minutes, let's do this. But it's still 90 minutes felt too long at sometimes because nothing was really happening. He was just kind of a dick. And, you know, dads get like that, especially when they move into a new house. There's a lot going on. So that's maybe he's just an asshole. But then I watched the original. Let me rephrase this. I tried to watch the original, and boy, if it didn't add a whole point to my rating on this one, because that movie sucked. I didn't make it through. You want to talk about feeling like a movie was 8 weeks long? Go watch Amityville Horror from '79 because holy shit. Now, I do like that this one paid homage and was very close to, they had a lot of callbacks to the original, and I appreciate that. I appreciate it a lot. There's a lot of, see, this is what I don't understand. We talk about movies all the time that there's a lot of meat on the bone. It's just poorly made. I think this is one of those. Like, this could be an interesting story. It's essentially the Conjuring story, but the Conjuring is a much more interesting movie. Like, shit actually happens. The Exorcist, stuff actually happens. This one is just kind of blah. And I don't hate the movie, but I can't imagine me push and play ever again. Respectfully.
Respectfully. One more thing, like a lot of people's biggest problems with this that I've read, on Al Gore's interwebs, is that its lack of, quote, staying true to the original, quote, historical accounts. I put that in quotations there. You just can't see my air quotes. Mike's probably jumping up and down right now. But, and if you care about that, I can maybe see where you're coming from. I just don't really personally give a shit about that. Like, I just view the movie personally as like a single movie, not like a documentary or some shit. So just putting that out there too.
Hey, really quick, I'm going to save my thoughts on the historical account for the question section of this episode because I've received some heat from some listeners on a few things I've said in the past, and I'll try to be nice, but I don't think you'll like what I have to say.
Any more opening thoughts before we jump into scene by scene? All right, let's get it. Good to have you back, Mike, too. I missed you last week. All right, let's get into the scene by scene.
Thank you.
Based on the true story, November 13th, 1974, Ronnie DeFeo Jr. hears voices saying, "Catch them, kill them," while he sits in the basement watching his TV. He loads his gun and goes up the stairs and into his siblings' room, shooting them dead. We see little Jody wake up as Ronnie kills more kids, shutting the doors behind him. Jody hides in her closet, but Ronnie sees the light and opens the door. "What's wrong, Ronnie?" she asks. "I love you, Jody," and he pulls the trigger. We see outside shots of the house in the storm, the Amityville Horror. We hear a 911 call and cops saying they've never seen anything like that before. The only survivor was Ronald Butch DeFeo Jr., who found all the bodies. Deer Park, Long Island, 1 year later. We meet George and Kathy Lutz, who are playful in bed as she scares him, waking him up. Michael asks what's George doing to his mom. George tells Michael to join him on the bed, and he asks George if he ever met his dad, and now asks if he has to call him dad now. He says, "Call him whatever you want." "Crap monkey fart." He tickles him and says, "We got to draw a line somewhere." George cooks a terrible breakfast, and Billy says he's not hungry and can walk to school. He's not fond of George yet. We see George and Kathy driving out to check out houses. George says they're out of their price range. They arrive to the house and she says how beautiful it is. The realtor is outside the car waiting on them, and Kathy is thrilled to see how friendly they are. She tells the couple it's an amazing house, they're gonna love it. They go inside and holy shit, George says. This is a mistake. Your ad in the paper has to be wrong. I'm a contractor. This place has to be much more. Realtor asks, what's wrong with that? It's one of the oldest Dutch colonials in Long Island. George sees the boathouse, and now we hear footsteps and we see a shadow walk, but the realtor doesn't say anything. She takes them to the basement now, but doesn't go down there. She asks what they think. George finds a clock that's stuck on 3:15. George says this is a deal for people who have money, and they'll eat drywall for a year. Kathy is very encouraging, saying to him about how hard he works and he deserves it. She jumps into his arms. They'll take it. As they walk out, George asks, all right, what's the catch? The realtor tells them about the tragedy of a family murdered in the home. She tells them the house is fine now. We've moved on. Kathy asks if we can make it work. George says, you want it? We'll make it work. I'll work out of the basement, and then we can sell one of the kids. Day one. The Lutz family pulls up to their new home, and we see home footage style now as the kids play and they unpack and move into their new home. Nighttime now, and Kathy asks Michael if he said his prayers. Billy says prayer doesn't do any good. Nobody answered mine when I asked my dad to be kept alive. Kathy says sometimes things happen and asks him to give George a chance. He just wants to be your friend. No one will replace your dad. George asks Kathy, how's Billy? And the phone rings. It's Kathy's mom. George asks Kathy if she's cold and he goes into the basement. He puts wood in the furnace and hears voices now around the clock and other items left behind. George is in bed now and Kathy undresses and they begin to have sex. At 3:15, George sees a reflection in the mirror of a little girl hanging. She asks what's wrong and he says he isn't feeling well. All right, Brian, that's the opening set of scenes. Go ahead.
First of all, let me just say I miss Dimension Films. Every time I see the logo come on screen, I get a shot of nostalgia from my horror heyday back in the old 90s. I mean, maybe okay, so maybe I should clarify that. I don't miss the Weinsteins, just the logo. But anyway, moving on. This cold open is, I mean, wow. Like I've said this multiple times before, but I'll say it again, since this may be your first episode. Being a parent of a young boy and a little girl, like this is such a gut-wrenching thing to watch. But the way director Andrew Douglas, which sidebar, this is the only thing I've ever seen that he's done besides his Mindhunter episodes. Nico, you've got to watch Mindhunter. But the way Douglas used the flashes, the inverted color frames, splicing it, with the real crime scene photos was just, I thought it was phenomenal. It had a lot of the '03 Chainsaw remake vibes to it, which, I mean, why not? That's probably my favorite remake of all time anyway, so I'm happy. But just wow, what an open. They also do, I think, such a good job of establishing the family dynamic. Reynolds, of course, brings his charm to this opening, and I don't know how else to really explain it besides that he just makes it better. But during their house walkthrough, I do wish that they would have been a little more subtle and not had the realtor, see the shadow thing. I think that they could have slow rolled that at least a little bit more. And did anyone else think that it was a little bit weird that he asked what the catch to the house was after he already agreed to buy it? I mean, it's just a little nitpick
Yeah.
there. The Super 8 montage I thought was great and well done. Again, though, the pacing, it felt a little off after that scene in the house. I just wish that they would have held off on that. It would have made it would have made it mean a little bit more, when shit started going down and stuff started happening later. Also, nobody cleaned out all the shit from the basement. I mean, okay, maybe they said that maybe they sold houses differently back then. I don't know. I wasn't alive, despite what Nico and Mike think. I wasn't alive back then. And the family.
Damn it, you stole my joke, bro. You stole my joke from
and the family dynamic I did think was a little bit weird. Like George and Kathy are married, right? I mean, is this the first time that George has really been around the kids? Because they act like it. I mean, did they not date before? I get the in film reason, you need to show the history with the dad. Then, I mean, okay, just have them dating. I don't know. It just kind of felt a little bit weird to me. But lastly, I talked about Reynolds and Melissa George, but I want to shout out my guy, Jimmy Bennett, who played Michael. Also, a two-time DGOT veteran. We covered his earlier film, Orphan. You can find that at don'tgooutthere.com. But he was also an anchorman, and this won't be the only time I say this, but he played a young James T. Kirk in the 2009 Star Trek movie. Boom. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, one thing this movie gets right is the cold open that you talked about. I mean, I really love, and again, it's, I mentioned it in my open where you could tell you're watching a Putnam Dunes movie in this open. Just kind of the, it's like grainy, not like dirty, like Texas Chainsaw, movies and a few other, but it's just kind of that grittier feeling to the movie that you don't get with the original or any of the other movies. It doesn't feel as clean, and I like that. I kind of miss that in some of my horror movies. So I like this open how it goes back, back and forth with movie stuff, news footage, all that stuff that we kind of reference. Yeah. So again, Ryan Reynolds is a strong point in this film, and it happens pretty quickly here. This movie or a lot of horror movies that take place in the past don't do a great job of feeling like the past. Now there's a few like that do a really great job. Like recently X, I think you could tell exactly what time frame it was going for. But I think this movie does a pretty good job of making it feel like the 70s. I mean, I think it kind of puts me back there at the time, just the, wallpaper and furniture and all this other stuff. So I like the setting of this film, that they didn't go the completely remake route where they made it modern. But, we've already kind of touched on the cast, but Ryan Reynolds and Melissa George have a lot of chemistry to me. You mentioned a weird family dynamic. To me, it came across as any kind of normal new dad into this, role where not replacing the old dad, but, kind of stepping in and the one kid's 12 years old. And so he got to spend a lot of time with his dad. And so I kind of understand that. And I'm not so sure about this guy feeling that he has, while the younger kids may not get that same. But I think the family, the kind of discombobulated family adds to this movie. It makes it a little bit different. And I think it works really, really well. This house selling scene, though, first of all, tip number one for anybody trying to buy a house. If you can't afford that shit, don't buy that fucking house. But pretty big house for a pretty cheap price. If the house looks like that, the very first thing I would ask, even in the 70s, I just have a gut feeling I would have been this way. The first thing I would ask is, why is this house as cheap? What's the catch? What's the deal? Before I even step foot inside the house, I think I would have asked that. So that's just kind of like all right, man, whatever you say. But, this realtor lady cracks me up because I think her acting is really good here, where you could tell she's kind of nervous the whole time. Like, oh, wow, they don't know what the fuck happened here. I may be able to get away with this cell right here. And, that they love it. And then they finally ask. But I love the way the realtor plays it. And I'm not going to lie, that's, real quick to kind of jump to my last thing. That's maybe the most awkward sex scene that we've ever had in a horror movie. It's like really, it's hot, and then there's a dead girl in the corner. Nah, man, I'm not here for. That doesn't. That's the only way. No, don't you mention the orphan. Don't mention orphan. All in all, pretty good set of scenes here in the open. I think it does a good job of establishing the same story but with a twist. It doesn't get stagnant to me until a little bit later, but right here, I think we're doing a good job of kind of setting up the tone of the film, the story of the film. And again, props to the cast, because already, if I didn't see another second of this movie, it's already better than the original.
I can agree with that. I agree with what you said for most of the part there. The opening to this movie, this set of scenes really set the rest of the movie up for failure. Like it doesn't get better than this to me.
Yes, that is a great point. I'm very glad you said that. I agree with you.
You get the DeFeo murders. I mean, holy shit. You want to talk about just like shocking, brutal. I already used a man as a verb earlier and you guys scalded me, so I won't say his name again, but he brutally murdered his whole family. And it really makes you think that, like, if that's how we're leading this movie off, if we're ripping the Band-Aid off like that, holy shit, we're in for a ride, but we're really not. I thought it was a very cute scene there with George in the bed, and little boy comes in. He's like, "Do I have to call you Dad?" "No, you call me whatever you want, poopy or fart fit, whatever he called him." Like, that's cute. That's fun. But when they get to the house, and you see a price like that, and you see the house, like why, like you said, Brian, you're gonna wait until you're already out the door and you told her, "Hey, we'll take it," before you say, "Well, just humor me. What's wrong with the house?" No, I'm asking that very early on. And then once I find out, oh, there's a murder here, I'm lowballing the shit out of them. And I'm not going to be worried about money for a while because this is going to be in my budget. If you're going to take this sale, then you're going to I'm a lowball and you're going to accept it because, he killed his whole family here. I did think it was funny, though, when he's like, we could sell one of the kids. I definitely would have sold the old one. Billy, kid was a real asshole, or he seemed like an asshole at least. So I get it. You've had a rough road here, but now that kid's on the auction block because, especially like
I'm selling little Michael. He's annoying.
George is cooking you breakfast, and you just take one bite and say, "These suck." Now that was funny though, because when George's like, "Yeah, you're not kidding,"
That was
so
funny.
that was funny. But damn, man, he's cooking you breakfast. Don't be an asshole like that. But Mike, you mentioned the chemistry that Ryan Reynolds had with Melissa George, and I too would like some chemistry with Melissa George. But I thought they were great together. And Kathy's mom, that was funny when they're in bed and he answers his phone. It's Kathy's mom, and he's like trying to be all funny and humorous with her, and she's like, "Can I talk to my daughter?" Like, she seems like a bitch too. So I'm like, okay. So maybe the rest of the movie is understandable. Like, this guy just can't win. He just can't win. I definitely would have Jack Torrance the whole family at this point. But this is already better than the entire original.
Hey man, you gotta lay off the double bubble.
What'd I do? Anyway, this is already better than the original, and unfortunately, we've peaked. So it is what it is.
All right. Next day, Kathy and the boys are hanging up clotheslines, and George is in the bed coughing. Kathy goes into Chelsea's room after hearing her talking. She says she's talking to the girl who lives in her closet named Jody. Jody tells her to shush, and she's not allowed to say who it is. George is chopping wood again, and Michael runs up to him saying, "Look what I found." George tells him not to go into the basement. Kathy pulls up with groceries, and he hugs Michael, telling him to go help his mom. She asks George how's he feeling, and she says she found a babysitter. She asks where's Chelsea, and they run outside when they hear the dog barking nonstop. They run to the boat shed and find her in the boat with a red balloon. She finally acknowledges them, and George puts her on the dock. She says Jody wanted to see the boat. Kathy says someone should have been watching you. George puts a lock on the door. That night, Michael wakes up as he hears noises, and some toy army men fall on the ground. He tries to wake Billy up, saying he has to pee. He hears a noise from the vent and walks into the hall to go to the bathroom. Michael sees the doors to the boathouse open and closing back and forth on their own. Michael uses the bathroom and goes to wash his hands. No water comes out. Then suddenly, we see this demonic-looking person beside him, and he runs to his bed. The windows fly open, and George springs up out of bed. We see blood coming from the light switches, and George sees himself with a gun shooting the kids. He wakes up and now sees the balloon fly out of the boat shed. He runs to the shed and doesn't see Chelsea. He sees bubbles from the water and dives in. He doesn't find anyone and runs to the barking dog. He looks up and sees Jody in Chelsea's room and runs up to her room to only find her asleep. He goes into the closet and we see Jody being held quiet above him on the ceiling. He rubs her head and leaves the room. Kathy wakes up and George is gone. George sees a dog digging into the wall of the basement and sends him away. She asks why is he down here. He says it's the only warm room. Kathy asks what's that and to come lay back down. George says don't talk to him like one of her kids, and he says Billy's dog woke him in the boathouse and he found the keys in Billy's room. Day 15, George is asking Billy about the keys, and he says he isn't apologizing over something he didn't do. George opens the back doors of the car and tells Billy to get to work. The magnets on the fridge rearrange and spell out, catch him and kill him. We see a shadow run past. Kathy calls for George and sees him at the fridge drinking. She asks about the magnets, but they're all scrambled, like all randomly again. All right, Brian, that's the next set of scenes I got. Go ahead, brother.
So I like to refer to the set of scenes as the start of the man fuck them kids scenes. Because obviously, I mean, shit, obviously the cold open was probably the ultimate man fuck them kids. I mean, he fucking shot them. So let's go with man fuck them Lutz kids. But we get the young James Kirk being yelled at for no damn reason. Hit girl lost in the boathouse with Georgie's red balloon for some reason. And then there's just so much more in the next set of scenes as well. Oh, but that jump scare with that fugly ass demon next to Michael trying to wash his hands, holy shit. Like that one got me. Props to Chad Atkinson and all the others in the makeup department. By far the best looking ghost, demon. Fucking, let's go with entity, I guess. But Atkinson, by the way, did Planet Terror, Deep Blue Sea, and The Mist remake as well. God, fuck the ending of that movie. But speaking of jump scares, fucking got me again with Jodie DeFeo being held on the ceiling. When George goes in that closet and turns on that light. Fuck, I mean, that was terrifying, and I thought it looked tremendous to me as well. And so, in the original review of the '79 movie, I went into some detail about the Christian symbolism behind the 3:15 and just that whole 3 o'clock witching hour, really. But on a personal level, like we've talked about demonic movies, and some bother me more than others. But fun fact: after I watched that first '79 Amityville Horror, and when we did the review for Paranormal Activity, thanks a lot, Mike. And even when I watched this one, it never fails. And it has to be a mental thing for me, but for a few days after I watch these movies, I always never fail wake up at 3 something for a few days. Fucks me up. But anyway, shout out to Ryan Reynolds, who must have been on the Mike Settle on workout plan. Mike Settle, certified trainer. If you want to look like Ryan Reynolds in this movie, call him sometime. Let's go. But last thing I'll say, just another nitpick. We are at day 15 now. And the rate George was declining, he should technically be a fucking lunatic right now, right? I mean, like, to me, that was just a continuity thing, I think. Like, it just went too fast too soon, or something was wrong there for me. And come on, Kathy, like, she handles all this like a fucking idiot. We've been showing your kid talking to an invisible nothing. Your husband's not sleeping, staring at walls, being an asshole, looking like he smoked a pound of the marijuanas. You're hearing things, magnets are moving around. God knows what happened here in the time between, then and the jump to day 15, and you just blow it all off. I mean, get the fuck out of here. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, you just touched on a big problem I have with this movie going forward. Okay, so the big thing that I take away from this set of scenes is the fact that Kathy takes forever to realize that there's obviously something in the house, okay? There's obviously something up with this fucking house. First of all, the lady told her that people were murdered there, so that would have been an alarm bell in my head. But then my really nice new husband automatically just starts acting like a dick to my kids. Strike one. One of my kids starts talking to somebody, quote unquote, invisible. Strike two. Okay. Dog does weird things. Like, nope, that would have been super duper quick. I would have called that out on the rug and been like, something's wrong with this house. We got to get away from it. And I know what I paid for, but I would have been lickety split with that stuff, man. Are you fucking kidding me? Again, it's not that they don't do a good job of showing Ryan Reynolds' descent into madness, but they rush the shit out of it. It happens so fast. Like you said, Brian, by day 15, if you had gone at the speed he was going at, you would have been fucking insane out of your mind already, swinging axes at everything. But, you mentioned this being the fuck them kids thing. It's he yells at Michael just aggressively. And I know that Kathy wasn't around to hear that, but, you see the way that he treats Billy and he accuses him of stealing the keys and, makes him chop wood, which, by the way, this is another damn movie where half the runtime is a man chopping wood with his shirt off. Now, if anybody's going to chop wood with his shirt off, it should probably be Ryan Reynolds. I mean, abs of steel. I ain't hating on the man right there. That's a goddamn handsome man. However, as Dustin learned the hard way, which I'm sure he'll get into, chopping wood without your shirt on, it's not a great time, Bob. Not a great time.
First of all, it wasn't the chopping the wood with my shirt off that got me. It was the fucking poison sumac that was covering the tree. So shirtless or non-shirtless, I still got it all over me, including my nether regions. Second of all, I'm a wood chopper from way back. Ryan Reynolds was doing a damn fine job.
Hey, I was not critiquing Ryan Reynolds' form and technique as someone who uses the hammer tire workout. By the way, if you'd like to incorporate hammer tire in your workout, you can find me at SettleMLCFB and I will train you myself. Okay, anyway, so, but I was not critiquing his form. Really good form. Starts at the top, brings it together at the bottom of the handle. Good stuff, Ryan. But it's just another movie. It feels like this has come up like 4 different times now where someone's been chopping wood without their shirt on, and it seems pretty irrelevant and stupid. But I think the scene between him and Billy there really is the first sign that, man, this guy, there's something wrong with this guy, and we know what's to come. It's a remake, but I just think they get into it really, really fast, and I'm not a big fan of how they kind of dive into that. But the stuff with Chelsea, I think it's fine. But again, the whole she's there, you see the bubbles, all that stuff. I'm just not a. I think they rushed the hell out of him, kind of losing his mind. But you can clearly see the rift between the two of them, the husband and wife, because she slips in the cold fist to the face that somebody should have been watching you. Oh, well, fuck you too. God damn it. I was watching her. Anyway, but last but not least, I like the magnets on the fridge and how they incorporate it throughout the film. I think it works really well in this movie, especially Catch and Kill 'Em. But even stuff like Home Sweet Home later on in the movie, how they fall, they rearrange themselves. I think all that works really, really well. So all in all, this set of scenes is okay, but at this point, the movie feels rushed. And much as I love a short runtime, I feel like there was maybe a slower, more deliberate way to kind of show George Lutz's descent.
Nighttime, and George and Kathy are all spiffy, and Billy says the babysitter is not coming in until he sees she's very attractive. He's infatuated. George asks, "You sure you don't want a babysitter?" Lisa tells him she used to babysit for the DeFeos as Billy introduces himself again. George and Kathy dine on some fine Italian, and George says he feels much better being out of the house. Lisa is in the bathroom partaking in some marijuanas as she hears a knock at the door. Billy made her some popcorn. Back to dinner, and George says they're all adjusting, and she asks if he feels different about me. He replies saying, "Yeah, I do." He feels like for the first time in his life he feels sure about something, and he wants to spend his whole life making her happy. Now Lisa is lying in Billy's bed doing a Gene Simmons tongue, and she asks him if he French kisses. Now she asks if they knew the DeFeos. She now goes to tell him what happened as she crawls sexily towards him. Michael and Chelsea play Operation, and back to Lisa and Billy. She tells of what happened and tells Michael not to listen. Room to room, he killed his brothers in this very room. It's kind of gross you still sleeping here. They go into the brat's room, Jody's, and Jody says she sucks at babysitting. They found Jody in the closet. Lisa says Jody is dead and got her fired. Billy dares her to go into the closet. They wager his kiss poster. Chelsea says you're going to make her mad. The closet door slams closed on its own. She yells for them to let her out as the lights flash on and off. Lisa turns around as she hears Jody's voice. Look what Ronnie did as she puts Lisa's finger into her bullet hole wound. She bangs on the door over and over, and we now see Lisa being taken away by the paramedics. George tells the kids to shut up as Billy says it wasn't them, it was the house. George tells Kathy her discipline isn't working. He's doing it from now on. Billy asks about the boys who died in their room. George says the babysitter is an idiot. The boys say they're not sleeping in their room, and George tells them to wipe the stupid look off their face and run to bed. Kathy checks on Chelsea, and she asks why all the yelling. She asks Chelsea what happened with Lisa. She says she was being mean to Jody, so she hurt her. Jody thinks Kathy is a good mommy, but the man here is bad. We now see George chopping wood and has the boys stack it up all the way into the evening. Dinner time now, and George is still ornery. Kathy asks, is this discipline or torture? George overhears the boys calling him a jerk and douchebag from the basement. George now hears voices saying, catch them, kill them, over and over. He presses his hand to the door, and he walks in and sees his dead body telling him to kill them. George is vomiting at the toilet and freshening up at the sink. He takes a bath now, and he's grabbed from underneath being drowned. The tub fills with water, and Kathy grabs him. George screams as she embraces him, and I wrote George is visibly terrified. All right, Brian, go ahead. That's the next set of scenes I got.
So we get that shitty babysitter horror trope here. I mean, not that the trope is shitty, but the babysitter is shitty. Which, let me clarify, is totally fine with me. Like I said, it's a horror trope now, so what? I like it. But Rachel Nichols is a babysitter, and I warned you. I said it wouldn't be the last time I said this earlier, but Rachel Nichols, also part of the 2009 Star Trek movie as well. So, boom. Fun fact, though, Megan Fox actually auditioned for the role but didn't get it. And At around 33 minutes in the original script, the poster on Billy's bedroom wall was a different band. However, when the crew realized how long of a tongue actress Rachel Nichols had, they decided to change it to Kiss to go along with that Gene Simmons tongue. I'm not really going to question how they found that out. Again, in hindsight, given that this was Dimension Films, there's really no telling. But anyway, man, fuck them Lutz kids continues with no fucking watching the kids going on at all. Just doing drugs in the bathroom, then some quick pedophilia implications because she's at least 25 years old, then telling the murder story. Yes, Lisa, I agree. You do suck at babysitting. Which, by the way, those flashes to the crime scene photos again worked fantastic during that story. And that with the soundtrack, I mean, I got to shout out Steve Jablonski for the soundtrack. He also did Transformers, Ninja Turtles, and I actually found this interesting. But he also scored some short films that I need to check out. And you do too, I think. A Friday the 13th Part 6 parody, and one called Krueger, A Walk Through Elm Street, which let me get off on a tangent here for just a second. It's fucking fantastic. It's a short told from like Krueger's perspective. Go check that shit out. It's on the tube. But anyway, sorry. Yeah, man, fuck them Lutz kids. But the closet scene, besides the not great CGI thing, fucking great makeup yet again on that girl. Just fantastic. Reynolds does a great job here too with his slipping into insanity, like we've kind of said already. God, he plays an asshole just so good. With that line, his father isn't around to teach him now, is he? Wow. And to be fair, this is probably why she leaves him for Josh Hartnett and goes to Alaska for 30 days of night, and she's got a rough life moving forward. Also, we know Chloe Grace Moretz, kind of finds a new daddy later on with Nicolas Cage and becomes a superhero. So anyway, yeah, girl, gotcha. Anyway, since I haven't touched on this house yet, just a little fun fact. While the reproduction of the Amityville house's famous exterior was constructed on Silver Lake, Wisconsin, many of the interiors were built on a temporary soundstage in an empty building located in a corporate park in Buffalo Grove, Illinois. But I'm sure after my Illinois comment in the mailbag episode, we don't have any Illinois listeners. But so lastly, shout out to Isabel Connor, who played Jodie DeFeo. She literally played just this and was in the Source of Evil movie from 2005 as well. Apparently quit acting after this, but I think she did great in this movie. Go ahead, man.
Man, this is like the one section of the film that's kind of very condensed to this one night, which I think is interesting. Just as far as them going on a date. And by the way, Billy, my man, if Lisa walked in and that was my babysitter, I would have shut the fuck up immediately. I'm not going to throw my old line in here, but I think what would have happened if a certain phrase were able to be uttered at this point. But I got to be honest. I like the interaction at dinner between the two Lutzes. I think it shows a real side. It also shows, to me, this is the first time we see it. Where if you, or one of the, the big times we see it, if you get George away from the house, he kind of comes back to normal just a little bit. And I think that's a really important aspect of this film, to just kind of show that it's not so much him, it's being at the house because of what took place there. And he's filling the role of the man that, shot and killed everyone. So like, I think that works really, really well. I think everything with this babysitter is really good. By the way, she's maybe the world's worst babysitter. I can't, even the movie on Netflix, The Babysitter, she's a significantly better babysitter than that. Like it's not even fucking close, my man. She's awful. First of all, she kind of put a pass to a 12-year-old, and I'm not sure of Lisa's age here, but probably older than 12. That would be my guess. That would be my guess. So, do you French? I know you're high, but there is never a point in any time, even in the 70s, where you should ask a 12-year-old if they French kiss. Nope, not doing that. But I think it's hilarious because when you apply this standard to modern times, there's such easier ways to get high at the house you're babysitting for than like smoking out of a pipe in a bathroom. You could just take like an edible or something like I wouldn't smoke on the clock, but I mean, hey, there's better ways to do it than what she did, smelling up the bathroom and stuff. But anyway, but I love this closet scene. To me, it's maybe my favorite scene in the film. It does a really good job of making me feel claustrophobic. It does a really good job of like kind of sucking me into the story. And as someone who's just, again, I'll try to toe the line here. Someone who's not bought into the story, like the haunting part of this whole deal, I think this scene does a really good job of making me feel for the family that was in the house before and for the family that's in the house now. Like, I think it does a great job. And while she was on screen, like, if this were a slasher movie, her purpose would be to be on screen to die. And that's kind of her role here, even though she doesn't technically die. But like, she's on screen to kind of be a quote unquote a disturber, to Jody and everything. So I think it plays really, really well. I'm a fan of this set of scenes. It's probably the last set where I'm like fully locked into what's going on. And I think they pull it off really well.
So yeah, this set of scenes, I mean, we do get, I agree, the babysitter trope is a little bit played out, but at the same time, I can appreciate it, I can respect it because it is a callback to the original. Rachel Nichols, who played the babysitters, when I saw the name, I was like, ooh, Rachel Nichols, ESPN. Hey, I've had a crush on her literally, it feels like my entire life. But no, it's a different Rachel Nichols. But Brian, I agree with what you said in regards to the poster, and it was originally a different band, but they switched to Kiss. How the hell did they find out her tongue is long? Like, that's creepy. I don't like that. I don't like that one bit. That's creepy. But I thought she did a great job. I think that this, compared to the original, the babysitter trapped in the closet was much better done. Like, it was head and shoulders above the original in that regards. Reynolds, his slip into madness is better here. Like, it's good. He's an asshole altogether. But at the same time, it's just like, it still just feels like it happened so fast, and now he's not progressing enough for my taste, if that makes any sense. Like, at the rate that he was slipping into madness earlier, like, he should have already smacked the kids around a little bit, or roughed them up, maybe locked one of them in the freezer. I don't know, do something. But instead, he's just verbally abusive and an asshole. So I would have liked to see it a little bit more here. But overall, I mean, this set of scenes really is what I was talking about earlier, about how 90 minutes was great, but really it felt like it drug in certain, like, not enough's happening here. We could have cut some of this out, in my opinion. Go ahead.
All right. George is at a doctor's appointment and he's asked if he uses narcotics, but he says he's considering it now. George says he actually feels great now. Doctor says no signs of any concussion and hands him a number to a psychiatrist. Kathy apologized to him, saying she feels it's her fault. She wanted this house. He says he wanted this life too. Chelsea asks to get her teddy as they eat breakfast. George and Kathy get back home and a teddy bear falls on the ground in front of George. Hi, Mommy, Chelsea yells out as they see her on the roof waving. Kathy runs up the stairs as George climbs up the ladder after her. Kathy climbs on the roof after her and calls her name. She asks what's she doing up there. She has to go with Jody, and she jumps. Kathy catches her and calls for George. Kathy loses grip, and George catches her just in time. Kathy scolds her about Jody being real. She says she's real and calls her mom a liar. I've seen her. She was going to show me Daddy. I just wanted to see Daddy. We can stay here and play forever. Kathy asks her if she misses her daddy. No one can see him because he's in heaven with the angels as she hugs Chelsea. George asks, what's the matter with you people? Calling them a wacko family as he walks away. He gathers some things to move into the basement. Kathy walks up to Father Calloway as he burns leaves and asks to speak. She tells him the family has changed and grown apart. There's something evil in my house. I know it sounds crazy. I just don't know where to go. He says there was a family some time ago who had a similar problem. The DeFeos. I'm living in their house, she says. George tells Billy to hold the log and not get shaky as he chops it and backs away. Why are you crying? He asks him. Hurry up, pick up another log and put your hands up there. He gets in his face and makes him hold another log. George is watching the home movies of the family moving in, smiling at the memories, but then he sees a demonic looking face on Billy. George looks terrible. Kathy lies in bed with Chelsea and says she's her favorite little girl. 3:15 a.m. George wakes up and walks the house. He sees the windows open and goes outside the open door and grabs the axe. He marches towards the boat shed as he hears the dog barking. He walks around the boat and hears voices. He sees a demonic looking figure charge him and begins to swing the axe violently. Mistakenly, he kills the dog brutally. He scrubs the dock clean. George is at a table and stares at his shaking hands. Kathy walks up to him and says she thinks there's something seriously wrong here. He asks what's not right. She says we need to pack up and go. He says you can't run away from your problems. He asks if she hears that squeak. He has to fix it as he squeezes her hand. How'd you get so stupid? Everything we have is in this house. We're losing each other. There won't be a family, she says. He asks, why is it so cold? And he snaps, saying, you wanted this God-forsaken house. Now you got it, as he punches the fridge, knocking the home sweet home magnets off the door. The boys say the dog ran away, and then she sends them outside. And the next set of scenes are the ending. Go ahead, Brian.
So the first thing I want to bring up is this scene with Chloe Grace Moretz on the roof. Like it says that she did all of her stunts herself, but to be honest, I'm not really sure how they did this scene. I mean, if it was a green screen or whatever, I mean, which obviously to an extent has to be right, but you can't tell, which is my point. Like they did a phenomenal job. Well, at least I couldn't tell anyway. Shout out Kimberly Adams and the team at Asylum for that. Now the whole believability factor was out the window. Like I could buy the one arm grab. Like, gonna need a dislocated shoulder there probably, but my little girl is about her size. Now I could buy that. Maybe Melissa George had done some curls lately or had Mike Settle as her trainer, but the fall was almost nothing compared to how all of those shots looked going around the house when she was up there. I mean, I guess she slid down some, but I don't know. It just seemed like a very anticlimactic fall there. Maybe that's just me. I love the way that they had Ryan Reynolds wear those black contacts, and man, he looks just crazy as fuck during that wood chopping scene. Like we mentioned earlier, Dustin Woodchopper from way back, much better with those hacks than old dude from Friday the 13th, right? I mean, was Steve? Man, that dude was chopping wood like an asshole. Anyway, but speaking of asshole, my guy gets my least favorite kill award probably with the dog kill. It was interesting to me though that they made him like see something else when he killed the dog. It wasn't like he's going crazy and then just killed the dog. It was an accident per se. That's interesting to me because, especially upon this watch through, it seemed like it made his character more redeemable. So, I mean, I'm sure that was done on purpose. Like, I guess like it's hard as a character to come back from just being a dick and then going and killing the family dog. And this may be a hot take, no disrespect to Lois Lane, Margot Kidder in the first one, but Melissa George kills it the rest of the way. With that argument with George, the whole thing, phenomenal. Where I think that was a nitpick or a problem of mine in the '79 original review. The last thing, just a little continuity error, an editing error. I don't know which one. I guess it could be both. But I noticed here too when George hits the fridge here, the magnets fall off. But the next cut, you can see the magnets still have "Home Sweet Home" in the background. So no big deal. Just point it out. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, look, to me, this is where the movie starts to feel a little too. I hate this because, again, I feel like a hypocrite because sometimes I like when a remake sticks to its source material, and sometimes I get annoyed that it doesn't change it up enough. And I'm not really, after a couple rewatches, man, I'm just not quite sure how to feel about how they go here. I mean, it sticks pretty close to its source material, but it obviously does some different stuff. I do think the acting in this set of scenes is probably the strongest of the movie. Ryan Reynolds is great. Melissa George, which Brian mentioned, carries this part to me. No offense to Margot Kidder, but it's not even close as far as making me believe what's happening is actually happening here. George at the doctor, man, the minute a doctor gives someone that I know a note to be recommended to a psych unit, I'm probably leaving the house. To me, if I'm Kathy, I know she kind of like finally wises up and pitches it, but I would have done that away from the house. You've got George out of the house at the doctor. How have you not realized this yet? It's just a small thing that bugs me. I know it's quote unquote like their dream home or whatever, but clearly something's up. Now, I want to get to the scene with Chelsea, which I love the closet scene, and I kind of tip my hat to it being my favorite scene in the film, but I'm going to change it on the fly here. It's this scene. It is absolutely terrifying in a different way. You know, normally in a horror movie, you get that dark, creepy, suspenseful scene that's really, really sharp and really good, like the closet scene. But this one is terrifying in a completely different way. It's in the middle of the day. Here's the thing about the stuff with Chelsea, and you know, I've mentioned this in a few other films. She's not quite possessed. She's young, impressionable, and she thinks she has a friend in Jody, and she's going to do whatever Jody says. And so this whole thing where she's walking on this, hey, I have a question for you, Brian. You're a father. Nico, you kind of a father. Would you do the gymnastics balance beam act like Melissa George did, or are you doing the butt scoot?
Butt scoot.
Yeah, I'm doing the butt scoot. I'm not doing the toe or the foot over foot. Not a chance.
Nah, man, you like legitimately with your kid standing out there, you're trying to get out there as fast as possible. You're
That's
probably
fair.
trying to run on the top of that, not really
That's
doing what
fair.
she's doing.
Hey, I just don't want to Mick Foley down through the cell. You know what I mean? Like,
I get it. I get it.
by God, Brian Hathaway's broke it in half.
Oh God!
But I love that scene. I think it's really, really good. It's suspenseful, and it almost brings me to tears sometimes when you watch it because God, they do such a good job of making you think, oh my God, is this little girl gonna like die? I mean, that's a big change from the original, which again, okay, that's fine. I like when a remake kind of switches some things up. So I like it. I think it's good. I think the stuff with the dog is hard to watch. Man, there's, you know, every time I prop up Michael Myers, I kind of get that like, yeah, Michael Myers is the best. And then I remember he's kind of a dog killer for no fucking reason. And he does it in multiple films and it pisses me off. And then I have to like come back to earth and be like, well, you know, we're all human, right? You know, we all have flaws, you know, I mean, Jason's scared. Fair enough. I mean, that's one of the worst scenes in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 where you could taste that's bullshit. That's baloney. Anyway, sorry, Rob. Hope you make a good Monsters film, which I think you will. I'm looking forward to seeing it. But no, look, the stuff with the dog is hard. But one thing I want to praise, and then I'll let you go, Nico, is I love the descent, or not even the descent, because he's fully in his madness now. I love the way Ryan Reynolds plays his character.
Mhm.
And you know, a lot of people I've seen online, and actually my wife said the same thing, that the eyes are a little too on the nose, a little too hokey for me. But for me, they work better here than they did in the original. Just how dark and demonic they almost are. You know, you can clearly tell an evil spirit or evil demon has possessed him. And I think it works really, really well.
So first of all, Chloe Grace Moretz up on the roof, like holy shit! If she really did her own stunts, that's incredible. But I mean, she was up there looking at her mom and stepdad like you have no idea how high I can fly. But that was a very good scene. I like when movies do that, where you know the little kid is possessed or something, or having hallucinations or whatever you want to call it, and they climb up on something really high. It really reminded me of New Nightmare, which I know Brian, you love that movie, but. You know, and then you also mentioned the black contacts that Ryan Reynolds was wearing here. It really reminded me of Wes Borland from Limp Bizkit. Like he used to wear those black contacts, and that's the vibes I was getting here. So that was kind of cool. But you know, again, man, I got to be honest with you. This set of scenes, yeah, okay, so he Michael Vick the dog, but that's not the kind of violence I was looking for, man. That dog didn't deserve that. Billy's dog didn't deserve that. Billy's an asshole, not the dog. But, you know, just not enough going on for me to, honestly, at this point, I start looking at my watch, looking at my phone, saying, hey, what time is it? How long have I been watching this? Let's get where we're going here.
All right, here's the ending. Father Calloway shows up, and George is terrible with a drill. He's a terrible contractor right now. Come in, Father, as he sees the doll with one eye. He tells Kathy that belonged to the girl who lived here last. Jody DeFeo was buried with that doll. Father begins to pray and bless the house as he hears flies flying around. The holy water boils on the floor, and he hears wailing noises from the vents. The door slams shut, and he opens the vent, and he's knocked to the ground and swarmed by flies. The door opens, and he hears a voice say, "Get out." He runs to the car, and Kathy chases after him, asking what's the matter. He drives away, and she turns around, and George is there. That night, the windows and door opens, and George hears, "Catch them, kill them." George cusses the dogs as he hears, "Kill them more." He goes to the boat shed dock as he hears the dog barking again and hears, "Catch them, kill them." He falls to the ground, overwhelmed. Kathy sees it all happen. Day 28. George vomits on the ground, and Kathy goes to the library and researches the house and the case. 28 days later, he killed them all. George snaps and breaks the wooden walls down and sees it covered in maggots. Kathy finds a book on Reverend Jeremiah Ketchum. He started a mission for Indians in the home. George makes it into the hidden room and is scared when a prisoner jumps at him. Jeremiah slaughtered them all. Over 20 bodies found in the lake. George sees more and more people being tortured. Ketchum's body was still in the basement. She slams the book shut and heads to the father. She asks why he fled the house. "Your house frightens me, Miss Lutz." She tells him of Ketchum, who tortured Indians on their land and slit his throat to live forever. He tells Kathy to get her and her family out of the house, as George is covered in blood as Ketchum slits his throat. Kathy calls and tells George to get out of the house, but he rips the phone off the wall. She makes it home and calls for her kids and asks where's George. She runs to the boathouse. George sees a body in the water and cranks the boat up. Kathy says, "We have to get out of here now." He shines the light at her and she falls into the water, and her hair gets caught in the prop. Her face turns grim and he lowers the trim, drowning her. When her face turns normal again, he gets her hair loose and goes to help her, but she gets out on her own and calls him crazy. Kathy finds Chelsea in the basement and they see coffins with all their names on them. George grabs Chelsea and says she misses her daddy. He tosses her Chelsea and they run out the basement. George has a shotgun now and they block the door off with a dresser as the front door slams shut on its own. George gets out and now the back door slams shut and the windows all shut. Billy punches George as he holds Kathy to the wall. They all get free, but the windows keep shutting on their own. They run upstairs now as George pursues. George sees they've all climbed onto the roof and shoots through the ceiling, almost hitting Kathy. Billy clubs George in the face with an iron bar and he falls to the ground below. They see the Reverend's face in the window and George awakens. They climb down the ladder along the chimney as George grabs the axe. Michael holds up Progress, jumping, and George grabs Billy and points the butt of the axe at him. Kathy puts the gun to his head and yells, "Back the fuck up." He pulls the barrel to his forehead, but she can't shoot him. George turns away to axe Billy, but Kathy hits him in the head with a gun. George flashes back to the happy memories. He hears "kill them" as Kathy says to grab some rope. Kathy gets an axe to her midsection, but that was just in George's vision. He comes to and yells, "Kill me or I'll kill you." She hits him in the head with the gun and they tie him up and drag him to the boat. George springs up, scaring them, and he has visions from earlier in the movie and convulses. Billy asks, "Why are they taking him? Just leave him here." She says she'll explain later, and they all load up in the boat, and she drives them away from the house. She stops in the middle of the lake, and George wakes up his old normal self. "Don't even look at it, Kathy. Let's get out of here." After 28 days, the Lutz family fled Amityville. They never returned for their personal possessions. The film ends with a close-up of Jody screaming, and the clock resetting to 3:15, and everything in the house restoring. She's pulled below into the floor. All right, Brian, that's the ending. What do you think?
Well, first off, I'd like to point out how this father doesn't just walk into the house until he's invited. Just throwing that out there because I recall, even though it was years ago when we first started the show, when we did that original review, I was like, "What the fuck? Did this dude just walk right into their house?" I don't know why, but that just stick in my head. Also, enjoyed the fly scene much better in this one than the original. But why are we still staying in this house? Anyone want to fill me in on that one? I mean, it's almost a you deserved it type of thing after everything, right? I mean, we are on the same page with that one, right? In this movie at least. You know, another man fuck them kids moment. We have going on here is Kathy leaving the kids with George at home when she goes to the library, then acting like she gives a shit when she comes back, like not getting them out before she goes to the boathouse as well. I mean, it's just what? It's just to me that's just it's lunacy. It doesn't make any common sense at all. But anyway, some goose though. Apparently, The book Kathy reads at the library makes a few references to the Salem witch trials having happened in 1671, when the correct year is actually 1692 to 3. Also, in the library scene, when Kathy sits down in the library to read Chronicle of a Zealot, she flips through the pages and you can clearly see that the pages are completely empty and appears to be from some kind of like notebook, but then she finds what she's looking for and starts to read. You know, the camera cuts to another angle and then suddenly the pages are filled with some old fashioned printing. So I don't know who was on duty when they filmed the
Bro, it's
library
bad.
scene.
It's bad as fuck. I said the same thing. It's awful, bro.
Whoever was in charge that day
Yeah,
should have got
no.
fired. Anyway, the worst scene I thought, and that's saying a lot, but the worst scene in the original was that red room scene. Like now, I know that was in the original Amityville house, but I found it. I'll go with dumb since that's a better PC word than I was going to use there. It just didn't translate well to the screen. Let's go with that. But man, this one was just so much better with the maggots. You know, I felt, and again, huge props for the makeup and the prosthetics down in that whole 13 ghosts basement, because it kind of had a lot of vibes there as they walked through that. Ryan Reynolds walked through that little hallway there. But so yeah, it's not perfect. Would I've liked to seen a little bit more of a sad ending, maybe? You know, like her actually pull the trigger and kill him. I mean, maybe. I think so. I don't know, because I didn't really care for that whole fake out death much. And let's face it, if he thought the kids didn't like him before, woo, man, those family gatherings are going to be a little fucking weird moving forward. But anyway, compared to the original, it's far superior. Go ahead, Mike.
Okay. You touched on something that I have a big problem with at the end. I'm going to save it. To me, and this is, it's not that this is not entertaining here at the end, this final set of scenes. To me, it's a little bit of a mess. You know, as much as I don't like the original, at least the story's kind of straight and narrow. You know, there's all this stuff. You know, you mentioned the library scene, trying to add a little bit more of a backstory, a little bit more, kind of to like spruce that up a little bit. I'm not 100% sure it's all necessary. You mentioned the continuity errors, which I also have down. Like, that's interesting. It's the same thing with the fridge. Like, whoever was in charge of splicing these things together didn't do a super great job. But I mean, hey, you have the scenes you have, right? But you know, all that stuff with the priest and stuff, you know, the fly scene, I would take that out. I wouldn't leave that in. I'm not a big fan of it. I'm not a big fan of the library stuff. I think it starts to feel like it's running a little long. Now, I like everything that of the night that he tries to murder the family. I think, you know, I would even cut out some of the basement visions that George has, you know, where he's seeing DeFeo and Ketchum and all that stuff. Like, I would maybe throw some of that on the cutting room floor. But I think, you know, when you see the caskets that he had made for the family members and stuff like that, like all that's, you know, pretty good. So I think I like that they ratchet it up. It's raining. It's, you know, they're climbing on the roof. They're getting away. All that stuff is pretty good. But I just think it starts to get, you know, they do this, and I can't be the only one of you that caught this, but they do that like shaky cam thing in this set of scenes, you know, that's like, oh God, it's a Platinum Dunes 2000s movie where, like, you know, it's in someone's head and it goes and it whirls you all around. Like, I can't stand that. It's one of my least favorite things they do, but it happens.
I love it.
Oh man, it happens. It reminds me of like one of the bad Saw sequels. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not. There's not really a bad Saw sequel. Let's be honest. But
I was gonna say it's not just Platinum Dunes. They do that in other movies, especially Saw. You're right. I like it though.
And here's the thing: this touches on the theme month we had last month. It's a 2000s horror trope. It really is. I'm spiraling out of control. Let's make the shaky cam thing happen. I don't know. It just kind of bugged me to see it in this setting, I guess. Man, you touched on something that bugs me here at the end, Brian. I know it's not his fault that he lost his mind because of the house they live in, but my man, I'm killing this motherfucker. He is not coming back with me, dog. Like, ain't no fucking way I'm letting Chris Benoit Jr. come back with me, bro. Not a fucking chance. I know he was possessed by the house, and I get why she didn't kill him because she still loves him and all that stuff. But nah, man, you came at my kids with a gun and an axe and all this other stuff. Nah, we leaving you at the house, Ryan Reynolds. You're handsome. You were nice before the house, but there's been too much bad blood. Too many bad things have happened. It's time to move on. That's why that ending boat scene doesn't really hit me like I think it's trying to. I mean, I guess it's a quote unquote happy way to end the film, but it doesn't hit with me for whatever reason. I'm kind of like, am I supposed to be happy for this family or what? Because what they just went through is not something you just move on from or get over. So, all in all, I think the ending is a little messy. It starts to run a little long. And like I said in my open, I feel like this is the kind of stuff that makes this movie just there. But something else I agree with you, Brian. This is a far superior film than the original. At least it gives me something to entertain me with. But it's still, it still kind of ranks low as far as these remakes go.
Okay, so this set of scenes in the ending here, like, first of all, if the father comes in and freaks out and leaves like that to me says something's wrong. I'm going to put the house on the market and I'm just going to leave. Like, I've already noticed the behavioral change. I've already noticed some weird shit going on with my kids. I'm just going to take that as, strike three. I'm out. But I did kind of laugh with the flies being all over him and stuff. Like, it definitely made me think of Scary Movie 2 when it turns out he was just taking a shit. But that was kind of funny. I like how, it seems to be a central theme in possession movies or exorcist movies with priests and flies. Like, at least there's continuity there, I guess. But, the ending left a lot to be desired to me. We get a false finish where it looks like Kathy took an axe to the chest, like she's Dick. Dick got whacked with an axe, and she almost did. But no, it turns out it was him saying, no, kill me or I'm going to kill you. And then she just knocks him out. She gun butts him right in the face. Or I guess it wasn't a gun butt, but regardless, I don't know. I didn't need the warm fuzzy feeling in the ending here. I didn't like that it was a happy ending. Like, he was such an asshole for the majority of this movie, and literally all they had to do was take him out on the boat and, oh, daddy's back. We're a happy family again. Like, fuck that, man. I wanted something to happen. At least one of those kids should have died, and I'm never a proponent of kids dying. But something substantial needed to happen at the end here, and then maybe he can redeem himself. I don't know. Maybe he can't. Maybe he's the one that dies. Someone needed to die for me to be satisfied with the ending of this movie, because overall, it's just like I said, we started out too hot. The beginning, they shot their load too early in this movie, and the ending was a letdown.
All right, any more final thoughts before you jump into social media comments and questions? I'm going to save Sean's question for last because I know Mike has thoughts on that one. Let's do Instagram first. We only have one comment. Mark_Hef said, really enjoyed this movie and preferred it to the OG. Also, this house has to win the Fuck Them Kids awards big time. Good scares and tense on parts. Had a really good feeling of dread and hope. 'Twas a good horror movie with a thumbs up emoji. I agree with you, man, honestly, on this one. Let's jump over to Facebook now. I'm going to save Eric Doolittle for last since he wanted to shame me for no reason in public. Abby Renee commented, Ryan Reynolds.
Damn it, Eric.
No, I love it. Let's go, Eric.
Too.
Shame.
Shame his ass.
Shame.
Abby Renee commented, Ryan Reynolds chopping wood without his shirt on. That is all anyone needs to know. I love this movie, probably more than I should.
Same, Abby. Oh, wait, pause.
No, I agree.
Listen.
I said I agree. It's pretty great. I'm not gonna lie.
Hey,
handsome motherfucker.
I'm not a hater by any means. Ryan Reynolds he's a good looking man, and he's got body goals, and I'll never get there because I'm not dedicated enough.
Also, don't have the genes that he has,
or the money,
or the money.
Yeah. All right, Kevin Podoff commented, fell asleep on this one. I was really hoping for a wild ride. -10 on a scale of 1 to 10.
Jesus.
Damn.
-10. Wow.
That's
a little
hating right
tough.
there.
That's a little tough there, Kevin. I mean, this is a significantly better film than Audition, Rubber, Thanks Fucking, or whatever the name of that movie was.
Killing.
Yeah.
I know it's Thanksgiving. I know, kind of.
All right,
I'm not gonna lie.
New legendary blood donor Mike S. Lesson commented, check this out in the theater. Was thinking it should be easy to surpass the original, as I thought it was kind of a turd.
There
I
you go.
wasn't impressed with this one either. It just doesn't work for me as a haunted house movie, brother. In fact, the whole franchise in general was underwhelming. Part 2 was effective, but I felt greasy after watching it. I haven't seen anything except the original in this remake, unless you consider like the Conjuring 2 part of it, but I don't.
No.
All right, Mr. Eric Doolittle, big fan of the show. Got to address something with you, my friend. He commented, guilty pleasure movie of mine. Really enjoy it. Maybe without Ryan Reynolds, I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much. The babysitter in the closet scene where her finger goes in the bullet hole in the little girl's head is still hard for me to watch.
Oh yeah.
Brian replied, completely agree with you. And Mr. Eric said, I have a feeling Nico is going to hate on this. And I'm the only one who likes it with Brian. Eric, see why you got to be a hater.
Hey, trust me, Eric, man, we don't know what Nico's going to do week to week either, man. It's hard to pin him down.
Yeah.
Don't ever let him know your next move, Nico. That's him.
Hey, like Cat Williams said, I like a little razzle dazzle. All right. Now the moment we've all been waiting for. Let's go over to Twitter. Mike, let me answer it first, then Brian can answer. We'll let you go last. Does that sound good?
That sounds great to me, brother.
All right, Sean asked, do y'all believe it was a hoax? I'll go first. Outside of the only thing I know about this story is what I've seen in the movie. I've not researched it, watched any documentaries, etc., etc. But after watching a lot of true crime, it could be, maybe it was just a mental thing. There's a lot of mental health issues that go on with a lot of these killers like that. But honestly, I believe in demons. I think we've all talked on this before. I believe in stuff like that. I think there's too much evidence and there's too many movies about it for it to be fake, honestly, at this point. So I don't know what went through the dude's head and what he went through, but I can't call it a hoax. I wasn't there, but maybe Mr. Ballin will make an episode on it and then I'll know more. Go ahead, Brian.
I love Mr. Ballin. Thanks for getting me hooked on that, by the way. Okay, so I'm with Nico, and I've said this before. I 100%. This is where I differ from Mike. I 100% believe in demons. I believe in demonic activity. Do I believe that this particular story? I don't know enough about it either, nor do I give a shit about it enough either. Like, there's some stuff where I'm like, oh shit, okay, like but this for some reason just doesn't grab my attention, and so I am able to just look at these movies and say, all right. And The Conjuring did this so much better, I think, in the like little segment The Conjuring 2 did of it to me. It did this so much better, but it made it more true crime. This is just almost more, fiction to me. So I'll just, I'll let Mike handle this one.
Well, I want to be clear. I am able to separate something that's art from something that's a quote unquote real life situation and enjoy it or not enjoy it because of it. Like I like the original Paranormal Activity that was clearly not real. It wasn't, but it didn't try to be based on a true story. It kind of tried to Blair Witch you where it's like, oh, this actually happened and we have it on film. Like, it's a little bit different of a situation. Here's my thing, and I want to be very clear. I am not saying I have no idea. Okay. I am not saying ghosts don't exist. I am not saying that demons don't exist. I'm not saying possession isn't real. All I'm saying is I don't believe in it. So, with that being said, yes, I think this is a hoax. Completely 100%. Did weird things happen in that house? Now, not the DeFeo stuff because those murders took place. I'm talking about the story that the Lutzes set down, made up to sell a bunch of books and turn it into a novel / true crime book or whatever that the original was made out. That's the stuff I'm talking about. I'm not saying that DeFeo and everybody, didn't, like, none of that happened. We have evidence of that stuff happening, but black stuff oozing from walls and chairs being thrown, all this other stuff that's in that original book. That family has been sued probably 10 times over the lies that have been found in their story, the inaccuracies. And look, maybe they did feel and see weird stuff in that house, but they sure as hell did exaggerate what happened to sell a bunch of books. I've kind of went in on Ed and Lorraine Warren quite a few times as people. Now, as movie characters, from the Conjuring franchise, I love those movies. I think those movies are great. That lets me know I can separate the two when it's done well. So every time I hear, an Amityville Horror, origin story, I just kind of shrug it off because I don't consider it to be reality. I consider it to be fiction, just like these movies. And so I can remove the real life stuff and just watch the movie and it not be a big deal. But since you asked the question, Sean, and again, I've caught flack about it from comments I've seen. Even people in my real life, have kind of yelled at me for not being a quote unquote believer. But I mean, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say I believe in something if I don't. So, yeah, man, I think it was a hoax, but that doesn't mean it doesn't make for good content.
Hey, fair enough. Y'all want to jump into fun facts? I don't have any for tonight.
All right, so I got a few fun facts I'll go off here. First of all, Ryan Reynolds chose not to get close to the children in between takes. He did this so it'd be easier to slip into a verbal and physical abuse. That seems a little unhinged to me. Like, what do you mean easier to slip into verbal and physical abuse? Whether you know the kids or not, they're still fucking kids, man. Calm down, jeez. Just before shooting started, a murdered fisherman's dead body washed up on the shore on the bank of the river near the main house. So that's creepy. Like, I probably would have picked a different location. I don't know that I would have been okay going through with it there. As we mentioned earlier, Chloe Grace Moretz did most of her own stunts despite being 8 years old. Very impressive there. Megan Fox actually auditioned for the babysitter role. She didn't get that role, but she could have the leading lady role in my life, so call me. During filming, most of the crew members actually woke up at 3:15, the same time Ron DeFeo killed his family. We mentioned this before. I think it was on Paranormal Activity. I mentioned it. That studies have shown that most paranormal activity takes place between the hours of 2 and 4 a.m. So it's a common theme in movies like this. Exorcism of Emily Rose did the same shit. So that's crazy that they woke up. I didn't see if it was they did it intentionally or if they just happened to wake up. That would be creepy as shit. This actually was the last film that MGM released as an independent company. So there's a bit of trivia for you. They have since, partnered or been bought out by Sony and a multitude of other companies, but this is their last independent release.
I only have one, and it's actually an interactive one that I need Mike to do an impression with this one. So James Vanderbeek, Jonathan Moxon himself, turned down the role of George Lutz. Go ahead, Mike.
It's because he didn't want George Lutz's life. I don't want your life, George. Sorry, I almost bungled that one. I had to come back and bring it up. There we go. Now I gotta go watch Varsity Blues. Okay, so really quick. So this movie made a shit ton of money, by the way, so I'll let you know. So this movie had a $19 million budget, and it grossed over $108 million in the box office. I believe that makes it the highest grossing movie in the franchise, if I'm not mistaken, when all was said and done, even if you account for inflation. So that's, I believe it had the highest budget as well. So those two things kind of correlate with, better movies. Sometimes a bloated box office doesn't make for a better movie, but in this case, I believe that it did.
Okay.
All right, let's jump into our favorite kill, least favorite kill, and the rating. I'll go ahead and go first tonight, Brian. Favorite kill. This was not easy to pick a favorite kill, honestly.
There's only two, right? I mean, the dog and the girl at the beginning. That's it, right? Or the people at the beginning?
I kind of picked something a little off the wall. I think it'll stick though. This isn't my favorite kill because I'm not happy a little girl got killed, but I chose Jody just for the simple fact of the bullet hole effect. The scene in the closet was really good. I like that scene, and the effects on her look good. So I chose Jody just for the look of it. Least favorite kills, I just chose all the family being gunned down while they were asleep. That's terrible. It's tragic. Rating, I just wrote, I've always enjoyed this movie for what it is. It's nothing groundbreaking in its subgenre, but it entertains me. I think the acting is very good, and Ryan Reynolds is great as he slips into madness. I feel for this family, which is the best part of the movie to me. Watching the original way back when makes me appreciate this one way more. This movie definitely feels like a 2000s remake, and some scenes don't do it for me, like the fly scene, the ending with Jody in the house. They could have left that out, honestly. Or the whole Reverend storyline. I really didn't need that either. And like I didn't really mention this at the beginning, but I feel like all haunted house movies are all pretty similar. They all have the same. They do this. There's a scary something going on. So I don't think this was anything special in that aspect, but I still think it was. I mean, it was okay. It was good, but anywho, like I said, not groundbreaking, but it's entertaining, and I gave it, Brian, a 7 out of 10.
Oh, let's go. Go ahead, Mike.
He couldn't even be excited because he know Mike's about to fuck it up probably.
Okay. So, okay. Here's what I'll say.
Here we go.
Pretty much my opening thoughts are the same. I think this is a fine movie. It doesn't do anything groundbreaking. It doesn't, completely break away from its source material, the book and the original. I mean, it's just it's not a paint by numbers. Thank God. It does some different stuff, but it's almost too much like the original, a modern retelling, if you will, for me to fully enjoy it the way that and by the way, I am not a remake hater. I don't think anybody on this show is a remake hater. We like a good remake. We stand them a lot of times as better than the original, which we touched on at the beginning.
Yep.
So that's why we're doing a remake reboot month, man. I mean, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the remake is significant, or not significantly better, because I like the original, but I like it. I like the remake significantly better, which kind of shows you, how much I really, really love that remake. So this is not a remake thing. The story doesn't hook me. And unlike Brian, I can separate stuff, but sometimes knowing the backstory a little too much clouds my judgment. It's almost like when I watch wrestling and I know the behind the scenes stuff, I have a hard time investing in what's on my screen, as me buying in and being entertained. So sometimes knowing a little too much hurts. It's like watching too many trailers, watching too much stuff, and then going in with high expectations for something. So I think it's fine. This movie is just kind of there. The cast is good. I think it's shot really well. I love the Platinum Dune style. But for whatever reason, this one just doesn't hit with me like some of the other Platinum Dunes movies. So all in all, Brian, I gave this movie a 5.99. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Say,
No, I gave this movie a 6.5.
look at you. He held to his oath, ladies and gentlemen.
No, that's not why. It was
That's an inside
already a
joke. It's an inside
6.5.
joke.
Yeah, I held to my oath on accident, pal. You're lucky.
All right. So as far as this movie goes, my general thoughts. It's an okay movie. Like I said, there's a lot of meat on the bone here for a story. Like I think, I've used Bones as an example a lot, but this one to me is a better story than Bones. This is a very classic horror tale. Possession makes, guy kills his whole family in the house, blames it on the house. He's possessed. He's haunted. They sell the house. The problems continue. Like, that's a classic story. You could execute it so much better. So I'm not saying that they need to remake Amityville Horror, because it's been done multiple times and they just haven't gotten it right yet. So I can't imagine they would do it right the next time, but they could. This is much better than the original, which I don't say often. OG Friday the 13th is a classic. That's a great movie. Halloween 78 is a great movie. Obviously, Nightmare on Elm Street is better than that remake that they did. Chucky, the list continues. There's multiple movies and villains and horror stories that are better the first time around. This was not one of them. That being said, it's still not a very good movie. Too slow. When I say too slow, like not enough action. His descent into madness was too fast, and then he just kind of hit pause on it and gradually progressed from there. Like, his pacing was off as far as how they wrote that character. I didn't hate the movie, but I'm not going to watch it again. Probably ever. I might, if someone I'm with say, hey, can we watch this movie? Yeah, sure, whatever, but I'm not going to choose it. But as far as the kills go, my favorite kill was none of them. I mean, I know we got a whole family slain in the beginning, but it was all really off-screen, lame shotgun kills. Like, we didn't see any, brain matter flying through the air or blood flying through the air. It was kind of lame the way it was done. But that's my favorite kill. Least favorite kill, I gotta say, Jody, man, that was sad. That little girl, she was looking her brother in the eye, saying, what's wrong? And he said, I love you. That's sad as shit. Either that or the dog. Neither one of them deserved that shit. But as far as my rating goes, like I said, I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. It's a very average movie to me. borderline bad, but overall average. So I'm just going to go flat 5.
My least favorite kill is the dog. I don't have a favorite kill. I really felt like what I said earlier. You're just
Yeah, I didn't even mention it. Sorry, guys. I just don't have a favorite and least favorite in this movie.
That's definitely something that this movie falls short with. But like I said in my opening, I gave the original 6 years ago when we did it. I'm more honest now. I'd slap a 3.5 on that bad boy. But I'll actually give this one a 7.25.
Alrighty. And our composite is a 6.4375. And IMDb with 111,661 ratings gave it a 5.9. So we were in the ballpark. We're 0.5 away. So I say we're pretty close.
Yeah, so this movie got a lot of negative reviews around the time it came out because I think a lot of people thought it was too close to the original. I won't say it's too close; it's close. But I mean, look, not every remake is going to be Psycho, and not every remake is going to be Texas Chainsaw, where they just do a lot of different stuff. So this movie kind of lands somewhere in the middle to me, at least.
Well, and like I said at the beginning, like I feel like that this is a forgotten remake almost. I mean, it's just
it is.
People just kind of don't think about it.
This movie kind of reminds me of the Pet Sematary remake, where it does some new stuff, but keeps a lot of stuff the same. Now this movie does more different stuff than Pet Sematary remake, just because only one big change in that movie kind of makes it different. But to me, did you remember the Pet Sematary had a remake? Because sometimes I don't.
And they put it in the trailer.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Hey, one day when we cover that film, because I know we will, just because eventually we got to get to it at some point, brother. I'm gonna poop on the trailer for that movie because you're absolutely right. They spoiled the fucking twist in the trailer.
Well, and Poltergeist. Poltergeist is another one I forget even had a remake.
I forgot how to remake it. Man, I've seen it one time, but I don't like the original, so
I don't like the original either. Excuse me.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
it's better than the remake though. One I remember. I will say that
remake must suck ass then. Anywho, sorry. I was actually watching a YouTuber that I don't watch all the time, but I do occasionally about this movie because there's not really a lot of big YouTubers who have covered this, but his name is Drum Dums. I'm pretty sure Mike knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about too.
He said this movie is kind of like one of those where I don't watch all the time, popping in maybe every 2 or 3 years, and I would probably agree with him. Like, this is one of those where I just happen to be looking through my Blu-rays or DVDs and see, oh, hell, I ain't watched that one in a while. Let's pop that one in.
Yeah, and last thing, for me, the story is just a little paint by numbers. Like, it's a little too standard. Like, it doesn't do anything new or different to me. And I'm not even talking about off of the original. It's just like, this is a haunted house film where the dad gets possessed and all's well that ends well. Like, it doesn't do anything original to me.
It's also kind of hindered by the fact that was one of the first films that set that trend. And so now you're trying to remake that, something that's already, it's like, it's not Scream's fault that Scary Movie did shit that it did.
100% agree.
So, I mean,
but that's what ruins Scary Movie for me, is how much I love Scream. Like, I feel like if I wasn't a Scream stan, I'd probably like those movies a little bit more than or the first two a little bit more than I do.
Oh, I like them both. I do both.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
sorry.
Like, I like this movie, but I wouldn't pick it. And I know Brian's going to blaspheme me, but I'm not going to pick this one over The Shining to rewatch or The Conjuring.
Oh, hell no.
I'm not going to pick this one over that one.
One of the best films of all time. Anyway.
All right, let's move on before Brian has the spaz.
I don't want to hear it, brother. I don't want to hear it.
Neither do
let's
our
shout out our
fans,
blood donors, and I'll announce my pick real quick because me and Brother Mike's so gracious and let us switch weeks this week. I appreciate that. But let's shout out these blood donors. Camper level reoccurring are Clayton J, Nina, Michelle Mirza, Andrew Ferguson, Carrie Adams, the Horror Movie Crew podcast, Alex Seligson, Eric Doolittle, and Sean Irwin. Our camp counselor reoccurring are Hunter Nelson, Dennis Kennedy, Edwin Hernandez Gunn, Joe Swinford, Jennifer Davis from the Too Close to Home podcast, Karen, Heather Smith, Kylie Denise, who's from Australia. That's super cool. And we have 2 new legendary blood donors, Kevin Scanlon, one of our biggest fans, and Mr. Michael Asleson from Facebook, who asked a great question earlier. Really appreciate y'all. Really appreciate any financial help we get because, hell, everything's expensive. Gas, food, power. Living life costs money, and it's ridiculous right now. But like I just mentioned, me and brother Mike, we swapped weeks just for this month. This coming up weekend is Father's Day weekend. Shout out to all the dads out there. I honestly only picked this theme just because I wanted to cover this movie. Big
Because you're a
guilty pleasure.
stepfather now. I got it.
God damn it.
All
Step Pappy Chan is what they call me.
right, Mr. Nico.
But anywho, I honestly chose this theme for this month because I wanted to choose this movie. This is a guilty pleasure of mine. I've liked it since I saw it first in high school. I'm picking the Stepfather remake.
I've got a funny story.
Next week is going to be a shit show of a review because Miss Amber Heard is in it. It's not going to be good.
I've got a funny story about that movie the first time I saw it. I'm excited to tell it. It's also the same as you. I saw it in the theater as a high schooler, but I wasn't really paying attention. So I had a funny story to tell about the first time I saw that movie. But also, I understand why you picked this, Mr. Nico. No big deal.
All right, anywho, let's get out of here. Appreciate all our fans and listeners. Y'all have a good one.
Catch him, kill him.
Just want to remind everybody.